Now, child, I know I'm late with the background. I know we we have done 2 out of 4 videos without this background, honey, because I'm late. My brain, I had it prepared. I was like, yes, honey, in March we're gonna do. I'm struggling. I am struggling, but I'm doing all these videos. I'm pre-recording because we all know I struggle, honey, and I get into that mood where I don't record, and the girls be like, "Where is she?" So I'm pre-recording, so y'all will have content, hunty. And of course, I'll pop in every now and then to say hello in real time. But anyway, girls, let's talk about Bessie Coleman, honey. Let's share the screen. And let me maximize myself so we can get a good look. Bessie Coleman, who was born on January 26th, 1892, and she had done died on April 30th, 1926, before my great grandmother was even born, was an American civil aviator. She was the first African American woman and first Native American child, because she was both, to hold a pilot license. She earned her license from the Fédération Aéronautique Internationale. Woo! On June 15th, 1921 is the day she had done got her license, child, and was the first Black person to earn an international pilot's license. She was born to a family of sharecroppers in Texas. She had worked in the cotton fields at a young age, while also studying in a small segregated school. We know that, honey, because she was born in the 1800s. She attended 1 term of college at Langston University, not named after Hughes. Hughes may have been named after it. Coleman developed an early interest in flying, but African Americans, Native Americans, and women had no flight training opportunities in the United States. So she saved and obtained a sponsorship to go to France for flight school. She then became a high-profile pilot in notoriously dangerous air shows in the United States. She was popularly known as Queen Bess and Brave Bessie, and hoped to start a school for African American flyers. Coleman died in a plane crash, child, as lots of people had done. We're going to talk about Patsy Cline. I think, actually, we already talked about Patsy Cline, honey, and how she had done died. Terrible. In a plane crash. In 1926, her pioneering role was an inspiration to early pilots and to the African American and Native American communities. She was only 34 when she passed away, honey, and this is her. The sickening icon, honey, Bessie Coleman, in 1923. 23. That was 99 years ago. Early life. Elizabeth Coleman, sometimes Bessie, but all the time Bessie, because that's what we call her, was born on the date I already told you, in Atlanta, Texas. She was the 10th of 13 children of George Coleman, who was a mixed African American who had Cherokee grandparents, and Susan Coleman, who was African American. 9 of the children survived childhood, which was typical for the time, because you know the girls love to just, them babies, honey, whooping, cough, and dysentery took them babies out. When Coleman was 2 years old, her family moved to Waxahachie, Texas, where they lived as sharecroppers. And if you don't know what a sharecropper is, it's a legal arrangement with regard to agricultural land, which a landowner allows a tenant to use the land in return for a share of the crops produced on their land. Mm-hmm. It's kind of like slavery, but it's not. It's slavery light. Coleman began attending school at Waxahachie at the age of 6. She walked 4 miles each day to her segregated 1-room school, where she loved to read, and established herself as an outstanding math student. She completed her elementary education at that school. Every year, Coleman's routine of school, chores, and church was interrupted by the cotton harvest. Honey, they had to get that cotton. In 1901, George Coleman left his family, got up out of there. He returned to Oklahoma, or Indian Territory as it was then called, and what it should still be called, to find better opportunities, but his wife and children did not follow. So her mom and daddy broke up. At the age of 12, Bessie was accepted into the Missionary Baptist Church School on scholarship. When she turned 18, 6 years after being 12, she took her savings and enrolled in the Oklahoma Colored Agricultural and Normal University, just a regular old university in Langston, Oklahoma, now called Langston University. Again, not named after Hughes. She completed one term before her money ran out and she returned home. Honey, I know what that's like. I have completed approximately 2 terms before my money said, go home. Chicago. At the age of 23, which was about 6 years after being 18, 19, 20, 5 years after being 18, she had moved to Chicago, Illinois, where everything and everyone has ever been. The just everybody, honey, Lorraine Hansberry, John Wayne Gacy, child, everybody. Chicago, everybody. Where she lived with her brothers. In Chicago, she worked as a manicurist, honey, and I need to call her because wow. Just at the White Sox barbershop, where she heard stories of flying during wartime from pilots returning home from World War I, which was way back in the 14 through the 18, child. She took a second job as a restaurant manager of a chili parlor, which this is what chili is. I don't know why they felt the need to make chili why would you hyperlink chili parlor and then just have whatever, child, to save money in hopes of becoming a pilot. American flight schools of the time admitted neither women nor Black people. So Robert S. Abbott, who was this man, he was an American lawyer, newspaper publisher, and editor, founder and publisher of the Chicago Defender, which is a Chicago-based online African-American newspaper, but I believe at the time it probably was not online since there was no such thing, encouraged her to study abroad. Abbott publicized Coleman's quest in his newspaper, and she received financial sponsorship from banker Jesse Bingo. And that's Mr. Bingo right there. He was a prominent businessman who founded the first privately owned African-American bank in Chicago and the Defender. Bessie Coleman took a French language class at the Berlitz language school in where? Chicago, and then traveled to Paris on November 20th, 1920, child. My great-grandparents were not even born, but my great-great-aunt, Lily B, had been born. Nope, she wasn't even born. She was going to be born next month, and she just died this year, honey. She was 100, literally 100. She would have been 101 if she had just lived longer, just a little while. I guess it wasn't this year, it was last year. She died in 2020. Anyway, nope, 2021. I don't know what year it is. It doesn't matter. We're not here to talk about my great aunt. We love her down. God rest her soul. I think about her every day and I get very sad. I do not want her dead. So she could earn her pilot's license. She learned to fly in a Newport 564 biplane, honey, with a steering system that consisted of a vertical stick, the thickness of a baseball bat in front of the pilot, and a rudder, which is that little thing right there. This thing, honey, that's the propeller, but that's the rudder bar under the pilot's feet, which sounds dangerous to me, honey, but this is her, and this her license, honey. She had done took this picture. She said, "I'm gonna be sickening in this picture. I'm just gonna smolder." I was like, okay, Bessie, honey, you better eat. On June 15, 1921, Coleman became the first Black woman and first Native American to earn an aviation pilot license, and the first Black person and first Native American to earn an international aviation license from the Fédération Aéronautique Internationale. Determined to polish her skills, Coleman spent the next 2 months taking lessons from a French ace pilot near Paris. And in September 1921, she had sailed for America, child. She became a media sensation when she returned to the US because look, sickening. She said, "Girl, I'm finna take this picture, honey. I'm finna eat. And then when I get back to the United States, the girls are gonna be like, oh, she's sickening." And that's what we did. Air shows. With the age of commercial flight still a decade or more in the future, which means, honey, they were not, you couldn't go to Delta or American Airlines or even Spirit. You couldn't go to Spirit, honey, and say, hey, I would like to fly to Wisconsin, because it wasn't a thing. Coleman quickly realized that in order to make a living as a civilian aviator, she would have to become a barnstorming stunt flyer. Now, this is barnstorming. It was a form of entertainment in which stunt pilots performed tricks, either individually or in groups, called flying circuses, honey. It was kind of like what's the synchronized swimming, but in the air. What's wrong with me? Performing dangerous tricks in the then still early technology of aeroplanes for paying audiences, honey, for paying, not for free. Now, if you go outside and you look in the sky and you happen to see the girl up there doing flips and tricks from your home, congratulations, that was free. But if you wanted to come down to the stadium and get some popcorn and enjoy it with the rest of the children, it was not free. But to succeed in this highly competitive arena, she would need advanced lessons and more extensive repertoire. Returning to Chicago, honey, Coleman could not find anyone willing to teach her. So in February 1922, she sailed again for Europe. She spent the next 2 months in France, completing an advanced course in aviation. She then left for the Netherlands, honey, with the white folks, child. Formerly it was Holland, but it's in Northwest Europe. You know, the higher you get in Europe, honey, the whiter they become. To meet with Anthony Fokker, honey. Here he is. He said, I'm going to be sickening in my picture too, honey. I saw Bessie Smith being sickening in hers. Let me smolder. One of the world's most distinguished aircraft designers. She also traveled to Germany, honey, where she visited the Fokker Corporation, honey. This was a Dutch aircraft manufacturer. And received additional training from one of the company's chief pilots. She then returned back to the United States, honey, to launch her career in exhibition flying. She was not going to let the girl stop her. Queen Bess, as she was known, was a highly popular draw for the next 5 years. Invited to important events and often interviewed by, now get out of here, newspapers. She was admired by both Blacks and whites. Now, it's okay to call white people whites, in my opinion, but calling Black people Blacks, I don't like. You can call the whites, honey, but the Blacks, I don't like that. She primarily flew Curtis, honey. Mr. You getting fat all the time. Now you're lying, I've never been so thin. The Curtis and Jenny, JN or Jenny, whoever she is, honey, we don't know. Jennifer Hudson. It all goes back to Dreamgirls. Jennifer Hudson. The Curtis JN for Jenny. Biplanes. Now, a biplane is a fixed wing aircraft with 2 main wings stacked one above the other. This is that, honey. This is what Wilbur and Orville had done got together, honey. The Wright Flyer. See there? Anyway, and other aircraft and other aircraft that had been Army surplus aircraft. So aircraft is just, it's plural. I thought it was aircrafts, but aircraft is plural. I can see how aircraft could be plural. We have many aircraft. Okay, fine, whatever. Leftover from the war. She made her first appearance in an American air show on September 3rd, 1922. And again, neither of my grandparents were living, and my great granddaddy is 97 years old today, living as of January 14th, 2022. We don't know what the future may hold. An event honoring veterans of the all-Black 369th Infantry Regiment of World War I, held at Curtis Field, honey. Lay off effort, take the money and run. On Long Island, I know that was CC. On Long Island, New York City, near New York City, honey. She's near it. And sponsored by her friend Abbott and the Chicago Defender newspaper. The show billed Coleman as the world's greatest woman flyer. because I think she might have probably been the only one, and featured aerial displays by 8 other American ace pilots and a jump by a Black parachutist, Herbert Julian. And this him right here, honey, with his hat on, looking like he going to the Sahara. Honey, nicknamed the Black Eagle. He was born in Trinidad. 6 weeks later, she returned where? Chicago, performing in an air show. This time, girl, okay, I made my point. This time to honor World War I's 370th Infantry Regiment. Coleman delivered a stunning demonstration of daredevil maneuvers, child, including figure eights. My phone about to die. Including figure eights, loops, and near ground dips, honey. You can never pay me to do a near ground dip. Not even at a Vogue ball, child. Why am I this way? What did my mama eat when I was in utero that hindered my brain development? Because girl, we're not even gonna blame my mama. We're not even gonna blame her. That was rude. Anyway, to a large and enthusiastic crowd, honey, they were enthused. They were like, yes, girl, go. At the Checkerboard Air Dome, now the grounds of Hines Veterans Administration Medical Center, honey, in Hines, Illinois. Latoya Hospital, Maywood, I know it says Loyola, and nearby Cook County, honey, because we're in Chicago, Forest Preserve, which preserves the forest, I would imagine. 6 weeks later, I just read that. The thrill of stunt flying and the admiration of cheering crowds. I get that. Who am I to say the crowds weren't cheering? I'm sure they were up there like, oh, it's a colored girl up here. You better go, colored girl. I know that's what the clouds were saying. We're only part of Coleman's dream. Coleman never lost sight of her childhood vow to one day amount to something, which I don't know how she thought that taking this sickening picture wasn't the amount, honey. This is the amount right here. My sister had her eyebrows arched, honey, trimmed for the gods, honey. She said, I'm going to smolder. I don't know how she thought that wasn't amounting to nothing. As a professional aviator, Coleman often would be criticized by the press for her opportunistic nature and the flamboyant style she brought to her exhibition flying. She also quickly gained a reputation as a skilled and daring pilot who would stop at nothing to complete a difficult stunt, and that's probably why she died. In Los Angeles, she broke a leg and 3 ribs when her plane stalled and crashed on February 22nd, 1923, and my great-grandparents still were not born. Committed to promoting aviation and combating racism, Coleman spoke to audiences across the country about the pursuit of aviation and goals for the African-American people, child. I added people and She absolutely refused to participate in aviation events that prohibited the attendance of African Americans. In the 1920s, she met the Reverend Hezekiah Walker Hill, honey, and his wife Viola Davis on a speaking tour in Orlando, Florida. The community activists invited her to stay with them and at the parsonage of Mount Zion Missionary Baptist Church, honey, on Washington Street in the neighborhood of Paramore. A local street was renamed Bessie Coleman Street in her honor in 2013, and she do not care because she is dead. The couple who treated her as a daughter persuaded her and Coleman, the couple who treated her as a daughter persuaded her to stay. I missed that, to stay altogether. And Coleman opened a beauty shop in Orlando to earn extra money to buy her own plane. She said, I'm gonna get these girls together, make them look sickening, and I'm gonna fly. And what you gonna do about it? Nothing. Through her media contacts, she was offered a role in a feature-length film titled Shadow and Sunshine to be financed by the African-American Seminole Film Producing Company. I'm Seminole as well. I'm African-American Seminole. I make movies. They still produce. Girl, call me. She gladly accepted, hoping the publicity would help to advance her career and provide her with some of the money she needed to establish her own flying school. But upon learning that the first scene of the movie required her to appear in tattered clothes with a walking stick and a pack on her back, she refused to proceed. Now, sister, I'm not understanding because you're not being asked to appear in the movie as a slave. You just appearing in tattered clothes, honey, with a walking stick, like Willy Wonka. Like Gene Wilder had done did. He didn't have tattered clothes, but he had a walking stick. Then he did a flip, and everybody was like, "Oh, look at Willie." I'm just not understanding. But okay, anywho, she had principle. Clearly, this is a quote. Bessie, which is an added word, walking off the movie set was a statement of principle. Opportunists thought, opportunist thought she was about her career. She was never opportunist, though she was about her career. She was never. Though an opportunist is what I'm going to say, honey, I'm amending the statement. She was about her career. She was never an opportunist about race. She had no intention of perpetuating the derogatory image most whites had of most blacks, wrote Doris Rich, whoever that may be. Coleman would not live long enough to establish a school for young Black aviators, but her pioneering achievement served as an inspiration for a generation of African American men and women. Because of Bessie Coleman, wrote Lieutenant William J. Powell, stay with it, him right here, who was an American engineer, soldier, civil aviator, and author who is credited with promoting aviation among the African American community, along with Bessie Coleman and James Banning. He is recognized as a pioneer and civil rights activist. Okay. In Black Wings in 1934, honey, before my grandmother was born, and I think my great grandfather was only 10 years old. And Black folks was writing books. Ain't that crazy? Dedicated to Coleman. We have overcome that which was worse than racial barriers. We have overcome the barriers within ourselves and dared to dream. Powell served in a segregated unit during World War I and tirelessly promoted the cause of Black aviation through his book, his journals, and the Bessie Coleman A-Row Club, which he founded in 1929 when my great-grandmother was only 3 years old. It's tempting to draw parallels between me and Miss Coleman, ... but possibly I point to Bessie Coleman and say, here is a woman, a being who exemplifies and serves as a model for all humanity and the very definition of strength, dignity, courage, and integrity and beauty as well, said Mae Jemison, the first African American astronaut. Period. Death. On April 30th, 1926, Coleman was in Jacksonville, Florida. She had recently purchased a Curtiss, Effie, we all got pain, in Dallas. Her mechanic and publicity agent, honey. Whew, I stuttered. I stumbled on publicity, honey. Her mechanic and publicity agent, 24-year-old William D. Wills, flew the plane from Dallas in preparation for an air show and had to make 3 forced landings along the way because the plane had been so poorly maintained. Now, that in and of itself would be enough for me to be like, Bessie, not today. Not today. Upon learning this, Coleman's friends and family did not consider the aircraft safe and implored her not to fly it, but she refused because she was stubborn. On takeoff, Wills was flying the plane with Coleman in the other seat. She was planning a parachute jump for the next day and wanted to examine the terrain as seen from the cockpit. About 10 minutes into the flight, the plane unexpectedly went into a dive. In aeronautics, a descent is anytime a period. Now, see, we didn't click descent, we clicked dive. Period during air travel when the aircraft decreases altitude, honey. And it's the opposite of an ascent or a climb. But we didn't say descent, we said dive. And then a spin. In flight dynamics, a spin is a special category of stall resulting in auto rotation about the aircraft's longitudinal axis and a shallow rotating downward path approximately centered on a vertical axis. Spins can be entered intentionally or unintentionally from any flight altitude if at 3,000 feet above the ground. Oh, I'm terrible. Coleman was thrown from the plane. Oh, God. Coleman was thrown from the plane at 2,000 feet and was killed instantly when she hit the ground. Jesus Christ. Wills was unable to regain control of the plane and it plummeted to the ground. He died upon impact. The plane exploded, bursting into flames. Although the wreckage of the plane was badly burned, it was later discovered that a wrench used to service the engine had jammed the controls. Coleman was 34 years old. That is terrible, Lord. What a she had to be thinking, dang, this is the end on her flight, on her fall. You're going through the sky and you're looking at yourself getting closer and closer to the ground, and you're like, I'm finna hit the ground and I'm finna go to glory. But what can you do? What can you do? It's terrible. Oh Lord, that's got me shook up. Funeral services were held in Florida before her body was sent back to Chicago. While there was little mention in most media news, news of her death was widely carried in the African American press. 10,000 mourners attended her ceremonies in Chicago, which were led by activist Ida B. Wells, who my grandma saw a picture of one time and thought that was herself. My great grandma, she's like, "Is that me?" And I was like, "No, that's Ida B. Wells." Wow. That's a lot of people at the ceremonies, honey. Lots and lots. Her honors in Atlanta, Texas, they have Regional History Museum, which proudly displays a downscale reproduction of her yellow biplane Queen Bess. The museum display also includes a uniform and other memorabilia regarding the life and times of Bessie Coleman. Outside I am really shook up about how she died. Like that's unsettling. I am unsettled. Outside the Regional History Museum is a wow, where was I going? Texas historical marker located at 101 Northeast Street in historic downtown Atlanta, Texas. The road to the Hall Miller Municipal Airport in Atlanta, Texas is named Bessie Coleman Drive in her honor. Y'all need to go and name the airport after Miss Girl. A public library in Chicago was named in Coleman's honor, as are roads at O'Hare International Airport, which y'all need to name Bessie Coleman Airport in Chicago. Oakland International Airport in Oakland, California. God. Tampa International Airport in Florida, which all need to be called Bessie Coleman Airport, honey. Bessie Coleman Airport, Chicago. Bessie Coleman Airport, Oakland. Bessie Coleman Airport, Tampa, and Bessie Coleman Airport, Frankfurt, period. A memorial plaque has been placed by the Chicago Cultural Center at the location of her former home, 41st, God help us today, 41st and King Drive in Chicago. And is a tradition for African American aviators to drop flowers during flyovers of her grave in Lincoln Cemetery. A roundabout leading to Nice Airport in the south of France was named after her. I think it's Nice. I'm sorry, Nice Airport in the south of France was named after her in March 2016, which is wonderful, but she do not care because she is dead. And there are streets in Poitiers and the 20th arrondissement, honey, of Paris. I don't know what I'll figure it out later. It's also named after her. Bessie Coleman Middle School in Cedar Hill, Texas is named for her. Bessie Coleman Boulevard in Waxahachie, Texas, where she lived as a child, is named in her honor. B. Coleman Aviation is a fixed base operator. What is that, y'all? That's where they fixed the thing. Based at Gary/Chicago International Airport. And if you don't know about Gary, honey, Gary, Indiana is where I was going to say my father, Michael Jackson, where my father and Michael Jackson were born and raised. On the playground is where they spend most of their days. It is named in her honor. Several Bessie Coleman Scholarship Awards have been established for high school seniors planning careers in aviation. If you want to read the rest of these, please do. We don't have the time on there. I've been here 30 minutes. In 2021, when Juneteenth became a federal holiday, which is wild and crazy to me because what? It's been a holiday the whole time. A federal holiday though. A flyover was held in Colorado to honor both her and the new holiday. In 2021, also the International Astronomical Union named a mountain and possible volcano, we not sure, on Pluto, Coleman Mons, in her honor. Is located on the edge of the heart-shaped Tomba Reggio. Very much like giving the Black people the shortest month, they gave Bessie Coleman the smallest, maybe planet, maybe not. Dwarf planet. They gave her the dwarf planet, child. Anyway, thank you so much for joining us for the sickening icon and her sickening picture, honey, Bessie Coleman, who we love. And God rest her soul, honey. I hate she died like that. I hate it. Anyway, child, come back next week. We talking about Ethel Waters, honey, according to my schedule. And I'll catch y'all then. Peace.